Hey everybody, DM Jim here, and welcome to another episode of Game Terrain Engineering. This is going to be sort of a catch-all episode. The reason for that is I am currently preparing to head to Gen Con in less than a week. I leave out on a Wednesday. Gen Con runs Thursday to Sunday, but I meet a bunch of fellow Geek Dad writers. I write for a website called geekdad.com, in case you're not familiar with it. We have about 40 or 50 writers on staff, but every year 7 or 8 or maybe a dozen of us, depends on the year, meet up at Gen Con to play games and just, we're scattered across the world, but this is one time when we get to come together and visit and play games together. And I am preparing for a lot of stuff, and I'm just swamped right now. Right now, my 3D printer is not printing. It's been running constantly for the last 2 or 3 days. As soon as I finish filming this, I'm going to start it right back up. Because at Gen Con, I'm going to be running a Gaslands tournament on Friday night, 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, 6 p.m., 10 p.m. But I'm running that for Osprey Games, and so I've been 3D printing things like stuff to throw on the tabletop, scattered terrain, some gates, what else? Weapons, because Osprey is bringing like 50 or 60 Matchbox cars. And the participants who don't bring their own cars, we're going to give them super glue and some of these little 3D plastic printed weapons and some Sharpie pins, and they can glue them and color them real fast and make their own vehicle. So anyway, I've also got a Frostgrave game with Joe McCullough, the game's creator. This will be the second year I've met him to play, so it's kind of becoming a tradition, one I hope that we can continue. But I've got some crafts I need to make for that because I want to have a unique playing area, and I'll take some photos and include those in a later episode. But anyway, I've got a bunch of things I want to talk about in this episode. I've got some questions that viewers have emailed me. I've been collecting them over time. I figure, okay, I'll tackle those. But before I do, I want to talk about a couple books that have recently fallen in my lap that I think may be of interest to some of you. Now, if you're a Dungeon Master, Game Master, Fantasy, this book may be for you. It also might be suitable for some small skirmish games, but I think it's more for role-playing games. It's called The Big Book of Battlemats, and I got to tell you, this thing is awesome. It's 58 pages. It's from the UK. Every page is laminated. I don't know if you can see the shine on it there. 58 pages. It's from a company called Loke Battlemats, or Loki, L-O-K-E, Battlemats right there. Apologies if I got the name wrong. But they sent it to me to review, and my review is thumbs up. This thing is slick. It's spiral bound, so the book lays flat. And because it's UK, this is called an A4 page. It's approximately, for those of us in the US or whoever uses 8.5 by 11 size sheets, it's approximately that size, but not exact. Let's see. Maybe a little thinner. Hard to say. Okay, you can kind of see the difference there. It's a little longer. This is A4. So each page has a laminated, full color scene on it, top down. But here's what's really cool. If you open both pages, the facing pages, they work together to create a larger scene. So like this one's a checkerboard hallway with some stairs running up. And this thing, like I said, is 58 pages, so what's that, 29 scenes in all? It starts out with a real simple, just stone dungeon floor scene. There's an outdoor version, okay, with grass and sand. And then it starts getting into, terrain. Here's some docks. Let me flip through. Here's one of some ruins, maybe like a keep. Let's see what else we got here. A snow-covered one, tundra. Oh, what else? More ruins. The checkerboard one. Here's an interesting one. Runes. This could make for an interesting trap or puzzle to solve right here. What else? Your standard runic circle there, right? Hallways. Man, what else? Room with crates. There was here it is. A tavern, wooden floor. Again, if you don't have the ability to make terrain or the time, and I'll tell you, this is what I really love about this is it's going to save some time for me because I took a step back from DMing in April I'm returning to the DM's chair in September, but one of the reasons I took the break was I just burned out. I was literally making custom terrain, painting minis for every weekly game, and I've quickly realized I've got to slow that down. In some of the games, I'm going to start doing more theater of the mind. Some of them, I'm just going to do Battlemats, and this is going to be very helpful there. And then some of the big games, some of the big fight scenes maybe and stuff, I'll do the terrain, the full minis, and all that. But this is going to be a huge benefit to me, and I imagine it would be helpful to a lot of you DMs and GMs out there. I'm going to put a link below in the description where you can go get some more information on this and order it. It's $26 American or US. I forget, 19 pounds in the UK, maybe 19. I can't remember. It's not bad. $25 is pretty slick. Now let me tell you one more thing. They just had another successful Kickstarter. Remember, this is an A4 size. When you open it up, this in the UK is called A3. It's, you know, just imagine a page that was this big without the spiral bound here. They had a Kickstarter. They're releasing a second book of fantasy scenes and a science fiction version, and they're going to be offering all 3 books, this one plus the new 2, in this A4 size that opens up to A3, but they're also making giant books of Battlemats, which are going to be A3 size pages, and then they open up to, I don't know, is that A2? I'm not sure what the numbering system is for the UK, but can you imagine? You know, you're going to have one page this size and then a spiral bound, and it'll open up to something that double this size. So the company told me that they'll get me one of the giant books out for review as soon as it becomes available, and when it does, I'll be sure to share that with you, okay? So that was book number 1. The second book is probably only going to be of interest to Star Wars Legion fans. It's more just information. It's kind of a cute little book. It's called The Rebel Files, and it's broken into 4 chapters or chronos. Chronos 2 is what they call Chron 2. That is the Rogue One chapter. Chron 1 or Chronos 1 is before that. Takes place with the clone at the end of the Clone Wars. But anyway, the book goes all the way up through Return of the Jedi. But what's interesting about it is this. Not only does it have some great color images that were created for the book that will help Legion fans paint their ships and their miniatures and things like that, but what I found interesting in this is something I've been looking back at for a while. There is a map in here. Just one second. Here it is. This is what I found interesting. A layout, a map of Echo Base from Empire Strikes Back. I'm losing it right now. The reason I've been looking for this is I've been thinking about creating a table to simulate the landing bay of Echo Base, because I've got the 3D printed Millennium Falcon, I've got some X-Wings printed, and of course you can buy the what they call the snow speeders or land speeders in Legion talk. The snow speeders, you can buy those and put those. But there's a map of the landing bay area down here, and I'm just thinking about it. But Star Wars Legion fans, like I said, color schemes for uniforms, ships, and of course the layouts of the base. There's also a layout of the Yavin 4 base, but it's not as detailed as the one on Hoth. I'll put a link to this in the description below if you're interested. So those 2 books. What else do I have for you? Well, I already mentioned Gen Con. I would love to meet some of my viewers if you're attending Gen Con. I have 2 events that I know I will be at that I can tell you, come by and say hi. The first one is I will be running the Gaslands tournament on Friday evening, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. I don't have the location, but you could probably find it in the Gen Con book when you get there. It's Friday night. Come by and say hi. If you're a fan of this channel, I'd love to meet you, and just come by, say hi, and maybe stay and watch a game of Gaslands. The second thing I'm going to be doing is playing with Geek Dad. It's called Games with Geek Dad, or Gaming with Geek Dad. Sorry. It's again, I don't know the location of it, but it's going to be Saturday from noon to 2 p.m. You could probably find it in the Gen Con schedule or calendar thing for the location. But I'll be there for 2 hours with my fellow Geek Dads. Every year we hold an event where we sell tickets. I think it's sold out, but you might be able to get a generic ticket and come and play. But basically what we do is we just sit down and play board games with fans of Geek Dad. A lot of times we have very new games. We have a lot of contacts with game publishers who are at Gen Con, and a lot of times we talk them into loaning us a game or coming by and teaching a new game. So it's a great place to come and learn some new games or play some older games. And typically what we do is we probably have about 50 or 60 games sitting around, and we just let the people who are coming, you know, hey, I want to play that. We'll sit down with you, teach you the game, and play it. Between the 8 or 10 of us that are going to be there, most of us know how to play most of the games. There's somebody there who'll know the rules. Very rarely do we have a game that we don't know how to play. And when that happens, we try to find somebody from the game company to come and teach it or, you know, play a game with us. So check it out. Saturday, 12 to 2 p.m. Again, I'll be there. If you're a fan of the channel, come by, introduce yourself, say hi, shake my hand. And I'd like to meet you and just say hi. Maybe I'll get to play a game with you. So, okay, the last thing for this episode is a list of questions. I've been saving these and trying to figure out when a good time would be to go through these, and this just kind of seemed appropriate. So I'll go down this list. Some of these people I emailed and said, hey, do you mind if I share your name? And some of them didn't want me and some didn't mind. So just for... I'm probably just gonna, you'll know who you are. You'll know your question, and I'll say an initial like this. All right, G, letter G. G asks, did it really take 100+ hours to print your Millennium Falcon? Wouldn't it have been faster to build it from scratch? That is a very good question. Yes, it did take 105 hours to build my Millennium, or not build it, to 3D print it. That's 105 hours to 3D print. That's not counting the, filling the cracks, sanding, priming, painting. That was probably, 2, 3, 4 extra hours right there. So yeah, let's just say, 110 hours to be precise, not to be precise. Would it have been easier to do it by hand, build something by scratch? I don't know. Not for me. Just thinking about building the Millennium Falcon from something like chipboard or foam, no. That ship has so many angles and different surface types and pipes and just gizmos and gadgets on it. Maybe it would take less than 100 hours, but I gotta think it would just be so stressful. And I just, no, I wouldn't have attempted it. It never crossed my mind to build the Millennium Falcon by scratch from hand with chipboard and foam and that kind of stuff. So no, 105 hours, yes, it did take it. Jay asks, do you consider 3D printing to be crafting? This one, I wasn't gonna do this one. I'll tell you, because I feel sometimes like this one's opening up a can of worms. Because I have had comments in my own videos, and I've read comments in other videos about people saying, oh, 3D printing is not crafting, or, using a 3D printer, you're skipping steps. You're not showing us how, that's a good argument. My argument is this, 100 years ago, or I'm making this up because I don't know my history, but at one point in history, scissors probably were expensive and way out of the price range of most people. I imagine because of how they were made, they probably had to be handmade, sharpened. They were probably fairly expensive. But they came down in price so that everybody could have a pair of scissors in their house, multiple pairs, right? I think of 3D printing that way. I think of 3D printers as right now, 3D printers, a few years ago, if you wanted a really good one, you were spending thousands of dollars, maybe over 1,000, but you were spending some serious cash. Today, you can get a 3D printer for under $500 that just does some amazing stuff. I'll put a link up here to Daniel Herrero. Danny, over at his channel, he's basically pushing the limit of his plastic printing 3D printer, and now he's got a resin printer that I'm sure he's going to be showing us some amazing stuff there. But again, this does cost money. But is it crafting? Well, okay. If I download a file from Thingiverse and just print it on my 3D printer, prime it and paint it, no, I haven't crafted that item. Somebody else did design it. Somebody had to design that model somewhere. But you know, when you glue it together and you prime it and you paint it, you are doing some crafting on it. And so when I say I made this, I'm not claiming that I made the model, although I do that a lot. With the Millennium Falcon, no way, I did not make that. I found that file on Thingiverse, I downloaded it, enlarged it, chopped it up, and you know, I just assembled it. We'll call it that. But is 3D printing crafting? I think it is in a sense. I will tell you this, when I'm in a CAD application like Tinkercad, I will spend hours designing something that may very well could have been done faster with chipboard or foam. It just might not look the way I want it to. Sometimes I want the plastic for its durability, or maybe just because it's easier for me sometimes to design something in CAD with, you know, with not worrying about mistakes. You know, it's easy to undo mistakes and things like when you're working digital versus when you're crafting something by hand. If you make a mistake, sometimes you got to start all over. So I think of CAD as crafting. I mean, you are designing something. You may not be designing it physically in front of you, but you're designing it digitally on a screen. So I do consider that crafting in a way. So Jay, I hope that answers your question. Yes, I do, but I understand that some people are hesitant to want to bring 3D printing into our hobby. But you know, the fact of the matter is, in 10 years, I'll be very curious to see what percentage of gaming terrain is made by hand versus what is printed. Because I think as the prices come down, more and more people are going to buy 3D printers, especially those people who game a lot or DMs or GMs, and they're going to take advantage of it. So as a player, if you're a player, expect to see more inexpensive and a lot more 3D printed terrain showing up on your tabletop that was not made by hand, that was printed or molded, okay? L says, will you be doing more fantasy terrain? Yes, I will be doing more fantasy terrain. I'm returning to D&D in late August or September. I cannot remember the name of the next adventure. It's the urban adventure that takes place in Waterdeep. And the plan is for me to return, and I need to get my eyes on that book to determine which of the game sessions will require, you know, miniatures and terrain. And then of course I'll rely on some of these Battlemats and things where they work. But yes, I do plan on doing more fantasy terrain, simply because when I return to D&D, I want to make stuff by hand, and I want to share it with you. So yes, I'm not done with fantasy. I know lately I've been doing a lot of science fiction terrain, but that's just demand. I've had a lot more requests for it, and I'm happy to do it. I like science fiction terrain, but I'm not done with fantasy by any means. Del something, you know who you are. What is that glue gun you use? Is it rechargeable? Okay, you must have not caught a previous video that I posted months and months back. What it is I'll show it to you here. It's not plugged in. It is, right now it's covered in filament. It's the Surebonder, and yes, it is rechargeable to a point. What it is, it's meant to sit, I can't pull this over because it's plugged in. See this thing right here? Oh, never mind, it unplugged itself. It snaps into this base right here, so when you turn it on right here, there's a little LED that lights up. It heats up the gun. It takes about 3 to 4 minutes to fully heat up, and then you can pull it off, and it is cordless, okay? And you can use it for about 3-4 minutes. I'll put a link here to the video where I reviewed this, and it works great. I was going to do a follow-up video about, you know, because somebody had said, oh, it's a rechargeable battery in here that recharges, and they were saying that after time it would lose, you know, the ability to hold a charge for a long period of time. But I don't know how long ago that was, 6 months, 7 months ago, but I still use this and it still holds a charge. I'll drop it on my tabletop here and forget it for a minute or two and pick it up, and it still comes out. But it's so close to my desktop, right there, that when I'm done using it, I frequently just, you know, pop it back down on there and it starts charging again. It does use the larger glue sticks, the 4-inch thicker ones, which I like. Somebody emailed me a while back. No, they posted a comment at the video and asked if this nozzle was removable or interchangeable, and it does twist off. I'm hesitant to do it, but I checked the product description and it says that it's not meant to be used with the other nozzles. So my guess is the answer is no, even though it does feel like it screws off. Probably just so you could replace it if it clogs or something. So anyway, it's the SureBonder, and again, check that link that I posted just a minute ago, and you can find more information about it. All right, let's see. What is the next question? R, what is your favorite game that you play? You sure cover a lot of them. Right now, I would say I'm still enjoying Gaslands. I've played a few games. I'm going to be running the tournament at Gen Con. I still play Frostgrave. I still love Frostgrave. I haven't played it in probably a month and a half, but it's still one of my favorite skirmish war games. Star Wars Legion, I'm having a really tough time finding the time to play it. I have about 80% of my miniatures painted, which was a big thing for me. I didn't want to take the miniatures unpainted to the game. I just bought me an RTST, whatever this thing is. I forget. Isn't that terrible? It's an ATRT, isn't it? Yeah, ATRT. I primed it, as you can see here, and the driver. I've got to paint this. This one's almost done. But yeah, Frostgrave and Gaslands right now are taking a lot of my time, or at least what time I have to play. Those are the two I frequent. I'm returning to D&D in September. D&D will always be a favorite of mine. I mean, it's I've played it since I was little guy, and Star Wars Legion definitely is. I've managed to play 2 games. I'm not an expert at it by any means, and the 2 games were really enjoyable. But I'm definitely ready to start playing it more, especially with that Falcon sitting over there. I've got to get that thing onto a table so I can get some photos in game. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. S. Oh, this is a good one. Where did you learn CAD? Okay. CAD is computer-aided design. It's basically software that helps you design 3D models, right? The one I use the most is Tinkercad. I am self-taught on Tinkercad. It's been out for 7 years, 8 years, maybe not that long. I can't remember when it came out. It's been a while. I remember when it was in beta and it was horrible. It had basic shapes, but it was sort of like Lego Tinkercad. Everything snapped together and it was colorful, and everything was mouse driven, and it's still that way. It's just they've added a lot more features to it. But I learned CAD in college. I studied industrial engineering, and CAD back then was horrible. A lot of it was, you coded things. Like if you wanted to build a cube, you would type cube, and then in parentheses you'd have to put, the coordinates for XYZ of where the starting point was, and then its distance, its length, and then its width and its height. Everything was done, using this coordinate system. It was horrible. I can't remember the first time I saw a drag and drop, a mouse-driven CAD app, but I know that the real expensive ones out there, like AutoCAD or Autodesk, and what are the other ones? There are a bunch out there, and I'm drawing a blank right now, but they're great and they're very expensive. So when Tinkercad came out, it was free, and I started using it. And one of my publishers, I write for a living. I write technical books is what I have been writing. A publisher reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in writing a book on CAD, and they weren't specific. And I had just enough experience with Tinkercad, and they had done some major revisions of it, and I said, how does Tinkercad sound? And they said, what is it? And I showed them some websites and some videos, and I recorded myself doing some things, and they said, do it. So one of the things about being a technical writer is you often have to learn something really well in order to write the book on it. So when I say I'm self-taught on Tinkercad, that's basically what I had to do. I basically had to dive into Tinkercad as deep as possible. I had to learn workarounds. If Tinkercad couldn't do something, could I get from A to Z by doing some smaller steps instead of doing a direct step? And so I learned to really push Tinkercad to its limits. And if you've watched any of my Tinkercad tutorials, where I've made minis and mini bases and things like that, you'll notice that there are sometimes I use some unusual methods or unusual third-party tools to get things to do other things. And so right now I am playing around with Fusion 360, which is free to hobbyists, and it's powerful, and it is almost overwhelming. I'm going through YouTube videos on my own right now teaching myself Fusion 360, And I love it, but I gotta tell you, a lot of what I want to do with CAD, I can do with Tinkercad, and it's the learning curve on Fusion 360 is, in my opinion, is steep. You'll probably find some people that disagree with me on that, but it can be an overwhelming CAD app because it's got so many bells and whistles. I would tell you that if you're wanting to learn CAD, tinkercad.com, create a free account. It's all done in a web browser. There's no software to install. Create an account, log in, watch some YouTube videos, start playing around with it, and it's really the only way you're ever going to get good with CAD, computer-aided design. What are you doing for episode 100? Nothing. That is so far down the road right now. I am on episode, I think this is 74, 75. I don't remember. That's horrible. Let's call it 75. I remember starting this channel a little over a year ago, and I honestly didn't know if I'd make 20 episodes. 50 would have been a dream. And now here I am in the 70s somewhere. And, I'm glad the channel is doing well. I appreciate all my subscribers and the comments they provide that tell me that what I'm doing is useful to them. I have no plans on stopping. If I ever find that the channel just isn't doing what the viewers need or want to see, then maybe I'll shut it down. But episode 100, I have no clue. That's 25, 26 episodes away. I'm not even thinking 10 episodes down the road right now. I've got so much going on. Speaking of that question reminded me. I got into a discussion with somebody. Somebody asked me, if I was ever going to focus, focus the channel on one type of terrain, like fantasy or science fiction or whatever. And my flat answer to that is no. I am a jack of all trades writer. I am a jack of all trades crafter. I do not focus on one type of game. I love fantasy games. I love science fiction games. I love the Gaslands apocalyptic games. So my channel is, you're never going to find it focused on just fantasy stuff or science fiction or whatever. That's just, I get bored easy with one type of topic or one type of game. So no, I don't plan on focusing my channel. If I ever decided to do something like that, I would probably close this channel down or just end it and say, okay, this is the last episode, and I would start a new channel devoted to a specific thing. Main reason being is I think that's the best way to go. If I wanted to focus on, say, science fiction terrain, I think it would be better to create a channel, a new unique channel just on that. And I'm not saying I won't do that one day, but right now I like being able to jump around from topic to topic. What is that? This one was funny. What is that orange thing over your shoulder? I was in my office when that email came in, and I was like, it took me a minute, and then I was like, oh, they're talking about when I'm in my basement. And I came down here, and I walked in. I could not figure out what that was. I walked in, and then I realized they're talking about that right there. That thing hanging. What they see, the orange, it looks like a key. That was a paper craft scene art, I don't know what you call it, scene that I created using Fat Dragon Games products. I'll put a link below if you want to check it out. But Fat Dragon basically sells this PDF of models, paper models, and you print it out on cardstock, and you cut it out, and you fold it, and you glue it. And what it is, it's a rectangular room, cave. The walls are, I'd take it down and show you closer. Actually, you know what? I can take the camera. Let's see if you can see this. So, here's a bridge that goes over the lava. It's paper. Everything here was cut out of cardstock. I called it the Cave of Keys, and obviously, the key shape for the lava. And there was a big finale battle for one of my D&D games that took place in here, and it was really fun. One of the players managed to grapple and shove a baddie into the lava, which was a great finale. I think somebody died. I can't remember. But you can see there's, openings. There's a cave opening up there and there and here. Sorry for the jumpy camera, but that the reason I didn't, the camera goes there is I hot glued that to the wall as a sort of picture. I didn't want to get rid of it, so I hot glued it to the wall there. Just something I wanted to keep. And so anyway, that's the orange thing that is over my shoulder that somebody emailed me about. Okay, there are more questions, but I'm looking at this video and it's going on 30 minutes and I think I'm about done. I may do another one of these down the road, and I'll just keep the questions piled up and answer more later. Thank you, viewers and subscribers, for tuning in. This is fun. I continue to enjoy my workspace here and to come up with new things that I want to share with you. I will not be printing another Millennium Falcon or similar sized ship anytime in the near future. That just that took a lot out of me, and it was a lot of work. Very, very good looking model, and something I definitely am proud of, but not going to do anything that big again. I have more science fiction terrain coming. I have more Gaslands vehicles coming for you Gaslands fans. I haven't forgot about you. And I've got some fantasy ideas that I've been tooling around that will hopefully be coming in the future. So anyway, thank you again for all your comments and support of my channel. I think I know I'm over 3,000 subscribers, and I wish I could, visit with every one of you and tell you how much I appreciate you supporting me and telling me, or just subscribing to my channel tells me that there are people that like what I'm making and want more. So I'm happy to give more. You're welcome to email me at gameterrainengineering@gmail.com. And I do check that weekly. So if you've got any requests for terrain, I'll add it to the list. I've got quite a list, but I'm always looking for more. So anyway, thanks again. And I will be heading to Gen Con in about 5 days, so there may be a little lull between this video and the next episode. So just bear with me. I may do a Gen Con episode while I'm there. We'll see how internet connection works and stuff like that. So anyway, this is DM Jim. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you in the next episode.